So, big society capital, what is it?
Big Society Capital is, and is this working?
No.
It doesn't sound like it is, does it? That's good.
You can try to shout or try now? Yeah, try.
That's better.
Yeah.
So, Big Society Capital is the wholesale social impact investor for the UK. And our job is to make a difference, to make a positive difference with impact. We try to bring together capital, ideas, and expertise to improve the lives of people in the UK and also for generations to come, because our approach is to build an impact market, not just to do it for a few years and then give up. So where have we got to on that? We've discovered that we really need to be solutions-focused investors. So identifying a social issue and sort of working down from that to, can investment help? Can this kind of investment help? What other tools are needed? What other kinds of expertise might be needed to really attack that social challenge for the good? And starting off on very small scale, we now, with our co-investors, put up just short of 2 billion, 1.2 billion already deployed, and that's gone into about 1,200 social enterprises in the UK.
Great. That's amazing. Jean was talking about resilient, porous companies. Can you perhaps give an example of some of the businesses?
Yeah, actually, I'll give an example which really illustrates the way we go. So we were approached a few years ago by a research-oriented foundation that focuses on poverty. And they went through all the different areas of poverty. And there was one that we picked out. It was about the poverty premium, the higher costs for basic goods and services which people on low incomes face. And we looked at that and said, we can get rid of that. That's an investable proposition which will make the lives of some of the poorest people in the country significantly better. We used that research. We brought together a group of people experiencing poverty premium, so user-led design. We brought in an accelerator, Wyra, one of the most expert accelerators in the UK, Tech for Good accelerators, a fund manager, Ascension. We invested in those. We thought, hang on a minute, a lot of these issues like heat and light, like there's a whole set of things that are government-oriented. So we needed to make sure that we understood which direction regulations were going to go and so on. So we brought in a campaign and change agent aspect, put all that together. When we first started on it, it looked completely crazy. These were brand new enterprises. How could they possibly tackle a problem that was facing about 7 million people in the country? Well, one of those ideas right at the start, about 3 years ago, had its last investment round at 55 million and is starting to get into the hundreds of thousands of customers. So, it works. It does work.
Amazing. And I guess Big Society Capital is also a market builder and has a purpose around that. What were some of your biggest learnings about playing a role to drive more capital towards impact?
Yeah, I guess we went into it quite wide-eyed, and we are not wide-eyed anymore. It started with the thought that investment, the right kind of investment, could on its own solve problems. And of course, that's ridiculous. It's like having a pipeline, but you only work on one end of the pipe. The other end of the pipe isn't there. That's not a pipeline. You need to be thinking about the asset owners, where the money's coming from, the asset managers, who's doing the intermediation, the social enterprises, who's doing the work on the ground, and the end users of this. Do they think it's doing good for them? And is there a financial return that adds up? And so we are much more focused now on where social impact investment can really make the difference. We are not wide-eyed that it can do everything. It can't do everything. There are many things that governments have to do, or philanthropy, or whatever. But there are some areas of social challenge where investment can make a big, big difference.
So at BSC, your vision is about creating an impact economy. or something around that. What is this new term? Can you tell us?
Well, it is.
a bit
It
more?
is that thing about making sure that you've got the whole system. There's no point in having impact finance if there are no impactful companies to take the finance, and likewise, the companies can't be impactful unless their customers are prepared to buy that. You can't have an impact economy without the right kind of government policy and regulatory system. At the moment, I would say the biggest impediment to progress in an impact economy is that we are still operating with last century's regulation and advisory systems. And we really need to change that.
So is it just an idea or is it for real?
It has to be for real. It has to be for real. You cannot do it from any one place. There are some wonderful social enterprises out on the floor in the exhibition area there. Where are they getting their money from? Where are they getting their revenue from? Where are they getting the capital to expand? Are they being blocked by outdated approaches to regulation and advice? We need an impact economy, and we need it very rapidly for reasons which are probably somewhere else on your list. So I'll wait for those.
Maybe just kind of bridging. In the last part of this session, we will talk a lot about pay-for-success models. Can you tell us a little bit more how the UK has done it?
Yeah, so pay-for-success models, which come with a whole number of nice little sets of initials. So they get called SIBs, social impact bonds, DIBs, development impact bonds, SOCs, social outcome contracts. This is a new one. So what is it trying to do? It's trying to say, particularly for government and some other major agencies, instead of paying for effort, can we pay for results? So typically, a government agency will say, for example, we don't want people leaving prison to offend again and go back into prison. So we will put up a contract to say, if these people leaving prison don't reoffend, we will pay for that, but we'll pay after we see the results. So an investor has to come and put the money up front. There has to be some kind of enterprise, a social enterprise, a mission-led business to do the support work to make sure those ex-offenders don't go back into prison. And then the government will pay according to what the results are. That's how it works. I can tell you, people manage to complicate it hugely, but it is actually a pretty simple outcomes contract. It's nothing terribly special. There's about 170 in the world that have been set up. Around 70 of them are in the UK, but by volume, it's much bigger outside the UK, because in the UK, our local government is pretty small scale. In the US, where it's state level, much larger populations, you have bigger contracts, and that works better because there are transaction costs to cover. And on the international development front, you can be looking at huge interventions, education across Africa and so on. So that works much better.
So you've been talking about the government a lot. What's the role of the government in all of this?
Yeah, so for us in the UK, we had 15 or more years of really consistent government policy, including funding, including releasing funds that weren't theirs, but it was important that they contributed to unwrapping things, including ourselves at Big Society Capital, but also policy and regulation, and really good iterative intervention. So, you do something, things get better, but you hit the next hurdle. Okay, deal with that hurdle, mix the next one and the next one. And that was absolutely fantastic, and really left the UK right at the forefront of innovation in an impact economy. I have to say, for reasons which many of you will know, our government has not done much recently other than one thing. And so we'll park whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing, but there wasn't much bandwidth to do anything else. And I think some of the developments in France now are really outstanding. And we're looking to agencies as well, like the European Investment Bank and European Investment Fund, for learning to bring into the UK.
Well, we'll hear a little bit about that just after this. So, in your view, what will make change happen at scale, really?
Yeah. So let me just sort of frame this and then come on to the how the change will happen. What change is it that we need? You know, we have very new and pressing problems. I would say, you know, the trilogy is really around climate, inequalities, and the just transition that will allow people to go along with climate change activity. There are other things like, you know, artificial intelligence, genomics. There are all kinds of things in some of the other auditoria here, but I would put those three at the start. And in order to attack these new problems, we need new solutions. We need new enterprises, new styles of investment, new regulatory systems, and so on. We need to innovate. But those new systems will take time to get to the scale that we need. So we also need to work on existing companies to change their habits, on existing investors to change their habits. And so we need to agitate, and we need to push for change for the big agencies that can make a big difference. And then coming back to that whole thing about system change, it's no good just working on the investment side or on the enterprise side or on the customer side. You have to do it all together or it doesn't work. So you need to orchestrate the change. And the biggest part of that orchestration is us. It is us as individuals who will decide we do not want evil in our pension scheme. We want our savings to be in line with our values. We want to buy from the kinds of companies, enterprises that, again, align with our values, that are not burning carbon, that are not despoiling the environment, and so on. And we want to use our votes to ensure that governments tackle the inequalities which are currently holding back the technical possibilities for mitigating climate change. All of this is us. You know, it's when we buy a car. Do we buy a low emission car or a high emission car? Do we fly, or do we use the Eurostar? You know, it's every decision that we make. Even really one-off decisions, like, you know, if you're getting married, are you sure that that diamond ring is no blood diamond? You know, these things are important. It's our choices. And what will make the change is us demanding the change. There is no surprise that almost all of the significant asset managers, fund managers in the UK, in London, have now launched impact funds. It's because they can see the pressure coming from their customers. Plenty of regulatory barriers stopping it at the moment, but those barriers will be broken down, and it's you know, it's great to see that people are thinking about the future when this really is an impact economy. Sorry, I've gone off.
No, it's great. It's fabulous. I think you've given all of us something to think about. So one sentence as a call for action.
All of us can make the difference. All of us can make the difference this weekend by where we put our savings, where we buy things. We can make the difference. That's it.
Thank you so much, Cliff.
Thank you.
Thank you.